All right. So, welcome everybody to the weekly Savvy sessions. Today, I am really excited to be joined by the GOAT in amenities and data, Mr. Kenny Bedwell. So, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, excited to be on, Joe. This is I don't know, we got a good turnout here. This is exciting.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So we've been doing these weekly for a while, and each week seems like we're getting more and more people jumping on. And this, as we're going into the 2025 season, I feel like this is such a crucial element, and it's not too late for investors to add these amenities before the peak season because the peak season bookings really just began.
yep, yep, it really did. And I think now's the time to really hunker down on some amenities. Sorry, one second. My daughter's she's gonna be I'm with my daughter in Kentucky, actually at one of my short-term rental properties that we're about to launch in Kentucky. And so she wanted to come with me. Yes, you can go upstairs. You can go upstairs. Go ahead. All right. Anyway, so she's like exploring the house and everything. And anyway,
Oh
we're really
yeah.
excited. And if I don't know. I was even thinking about doing a field trip and showing you guys some of the amenities we added to this property that are going to be game changers in this market. So I got to find where they're at, and maybe if hopefully the Wi-Fi holds out. If not, I'll describe them to you guys. But these are the types of amenities, these little things that are going to be the difference makers between a guest choosing my property and someone else's. So anyway.
No, I agree. I agree. So, for those of you who don't know us, I am Joe Rohne. I am a savvy STR agent, but I'm also a investor. I own properties in Panama City Beach. I also co-host at the Beach Market, Miramar Beach, and in Branson, Missouri. So, been doing this for about 3.5 years now, and actually met Kenny through the Bill Faith Accelerator program a few years back, and learned so much from him and everybody in that program. And Kenny, I'll let you go ahead and introduce you in case any of these people don't know who you are.
Yeah, so my name is Kenny Bedwell. I am the CEO of STR Insights. I basically help people find awesome short-term rentals across the country. That's my job. Our consulting team, we work with people one-on-one, and we use data and analytics, and also take in your budget and your goals and your preferences, and really help people find the right markets to invest in, number one, and then the types of properties that are going to fit them, that they can be in the top 10 or even 1% in their market. So yeah, that's what I do, and that's what I enjoy. And then I also am a full-time real estate investor as well. Like, I'm sitting in one of my properties right now. And I have properties in North Carolina. This one's in Kentucky, New York. That's where I live right now. One we're going to launch in Texas soon, and even a boutique hotel in New Orleans. So I'm doing a lot. So yeah.
It's really a great time to invest. You know, interest rates have eased a little bit, but more so prices are easing. We're able to find deals. Kenny and I have just finished working together with finding an investor, a property in Panama City Beach that we got it under contract at $100,000 under the appraised value, and that investor already has over 100K in equity before she even walks in the door. So we work together quite a bit, and our team and his team, and excited to talk about amenities today. So let's run through the slides, and we'll kind of deep dive a little bit. These are just kind of a broad overview. We had a post recently and asked everybody, what are the top amenities? And a lot of these are feelings where Kenny's going to bring us the data go with what we think is a great amenity. So let's run through. So, obviously amenities are important, right? I mean, the STR game has changed, and we can no longer have average properties. You no longer can just throw beds in a house and have a pool and that's it, and think you're going to crush it. So, you have to really understand your market. And as we go through these amenities, and Kenny will agree, each market amenities that are going to drive traffic and revenue are going to be different. So, you got to think about your market competition, your guest experience, what things that you're going to do to be able to increase, the return guests to coming back year after year. And if they have more to do, they're going to do that. So we're going to kind of jump into entertainment and kind of the inside and outdoor spaces. So, I'm on the beach market mostly. Kenny's got a little bit bigger grasp when it comes to other markets. But what are your thoughts on some of these here, the theater and the outdoor projectors?
Yeah. So, are you just referring to mountain markets, or I know this
Yeah,
one's
I
in
mean,
Nashville, or just in general?
yeah, this one's in Nashville, but in general, I mean, do theater and outdoor projectors work in every market, or is that going to be more of a specific market that you're seeing that return?
Yeah, so it's definitely specific markets. I think one of the biggest things before you just go and what I call shotgunning amenities, meaning like just add everything under the sun, is you need to understand your market and your guest avatar. Who is coming to your market and why are they coming to the market? So let's take a beach market, for example. Theaters have very little to none ROI in a beach market because people aren't traveling there to stay inside and enjoy a theater. They're traveling there to go to the beach, right? And enjoy the outside and all the stuff going on outside. And so I wouldn't put a theater room. I'd try to make it a bedroom and have more heads and beds in a beach market, or use that for a game room or something else. And so understand why your guests are coming to your market first. That will help you know if an amenity is relevant for what you're looking to do. I'll add a quick. Well, I don't want to. I can dive in this a little bit more, in terms of like knowing which amenities to add. But what I like to do, when in doubt, if you have a question about a particular amenity, go into your market and see if anybody has that amenity already. So if I wanted to add a theater room into my market, and let's say I'm in the middle of Kansas, and I'm like, is this even going to make me any money? Okay. We have found a direct correlation. This is really important. I want everybody to remember this. We have found a direct correlation to the reviews, what people are saying in the reviews, to impacts on revenue. Meaning, if people are positively talking about a particular amenity, 9 times out of 10, it has a high probability or high correlation to impacting revenue or increasing revenue of that property. And so, if you're thinking about, when in doubt, when you're thinking about adding amenity, go to the reviews and see if people are talking about that amenity. And if they aren't, it's probably not going to be impactful on your revenue. If they are, there's your answer.
No, I think that's really important information. And I think that's a great way to do it because if you're going in and reading reviews of your competition, you're going to see that. You're going to see people talking about certain things that they have. So, and you have to understand your market, you have to understand your competition and make sure that you can match or level up what your competition is doing. As we discussed, this is a great time to buy and get into the short-term rental market or into the game, but you can't be average. So adding those extra amenities is going to be big. So let's talk a little bit about outdoor spaces really quickly as we, dive in. So obviously in the beach market, outdoor spaces, stuff that we've added, putt-putt, fire pits. We're actually seeing, I think there's 9 houses with pickleball courts down in Panama City Beach now.
Mm.
3 years ago, there was 0. Now there's 9. So not that it's something you have to get into the game, but that's next level. But the one thing that people don't talk about, in my opinion, in the beach market enough is a hot tub. And I know a hot tub, see, you think, oh, it's a beach market. Nobody's going to get in a hot tub. My properties with hot tubs during the off season crushed it. And that is where you can make your biggest impact in revenue is in the slow season. You're going to book your summer. How are you going to book your winter? And that hot tub for me has been a game changer. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think people need to think about amenities are not necessarily like there's certain amenities that you add, that there's 3 types of amenities. So there's amenities that impact your occupancy rate. For example, like the hot tubs, like seasonality, right? Meaning like it's not going to bring you more money you can't just charge more money because you have a hot tub. What it's going to do is get you more bookings in the off season. Okay, so I call these occupancy amenities. The next type of amenities are amenities that improve the guest experience. Okay, so like for example, upgrading your coffee bar to adding a French press and some of these other things. Is that going to have a direct correlation to improving your ADR or your occupancy rate? Probably not. But what it's going to do is if people enjoy using French presses or espresso machines or whatever, they'll mention that in the reviews. Remember what I said earlier about the reviews correlating to revenue? That will improve guest experience, rating reviews, make you more money. Boom. So that's So number one, occupancy, increasing amenities. Number two, guest experience improving amenities. And then number three, the big one that everyone tries to think about are ADR, or average daily rate, improving amenities. These are big, big amenities like the pickleball court or the swimming pool, or, at like converting a garage, or things that you can charge more money because you added that particular amenity. Now, the problem with how a lot of people think is that they always try to think, well, what can I do? What ADR improving amenities can I add? But that's not how you should think about it. You need to balance out all three categories, because all three categories combined will actually make you more money. You can't just keep adding more and more, ADR improving amenities, because there's diminishing returns, and you also have limited space on what you can add to your property. So if you're thinking about any of these, write out a list of the amenities that you have and which columns they fall under. You'll be surprised on how many you'll maybe be lacking in the guest experience side, or maybe the occupancy side. And then there's your answer of what type of amenities to add to your property.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. It's also important to understand that it needs to be more than one. You can't say I have a game room and have one Pac-Man machine in your game room. You can't say
Right.
you have a game room and just have a pool table. I'm not saying, and I absolutely love Ashida's designs. Every property doesn't need to have Ashita level game rooms, which they're amazing, and they're going to make a huge impact. But I do think it's important that you understand that it's got to be more than one.
Right. Yep, that's exactly correct.
So, daughter's hanging out.
Yeah, pretty much. She's making. I'll mute myself. She's making some ice cream cones here. So, all right, a couple of questions. Hey guys, feel free to ask some questions in the chat. I also did so for those of you who don't know, I have a podcast called Cash Flow Positive. Joe's been on the podcast. And that's Cash Flow Positive. It's on Spotify and Apple, and iTunes. I just did, I have an episode that came out about this, where I go into detail about each of these three categories. But I'll throw some questions in the chat, and we'll answer them as we're going through. But another Kenny, I like it. Kenny Culpa said, would you say mini golf is an ADR improving amenity? Okay, so it's tricky, because what Joe just said is really important. If you just put out like a little 2-hole mini putt, really basic and simple, that's probably not going to improve your ADR. Okay, that would be a guest experience amenity, right? So just something else. So I would typically think mini golf would actually fall on the guest experience side rather than the ADR side. Remember, think big. These have to be big amenities. Hot tubs are not ADR improving amenities for the most part. Okay, they are seasonal amenities. Okay, I'm in a lake market and I put one in the middle of summertime. I got 0 bookings until the fall hit, and then all of a sudden I started getting bookings for the hot tub. It's a seasonal amenity. It's an occupancy amenity. So mini putt is going to be your guest experience amenity.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually have a beach house that I co-host that's about a half mile from the beach. And the backyard was a little bit too small to put in a pool. We put in a 6-hole putt course, and our occupancy increased probably about 10% over the house that I have similar that doesn't have the putt golf, right? It would make a bigger difference if it was a pool, because we're a half mile from the beach, which we're trying to figure that out. But the putt definitely increased that occupancy, but I did not really get a bigger ADR. So you're spot on that. These are some of the other things, that we have on here in your golfer's dream. Golf obviously is always going to be a popular sport. I wanted to bring up bucket golf because, for obviously at a beach market, you're not going to have bucket golf because you don't have the space. But when you're in, especially suburban areas, rural areas where you have maybe a half acre, quarter acre, or maybe even over an acre, this bucket golf is a really fun game and really shows well in pictures. Have you played bucket golf, Kenny?
I have not. I need to. I'm not a big golfer, but it sounds fun. I'm the guy that I go to Top Golf and I just pull out the little mini putter and just try to put it into the closest holes, and I somehow beat the actual golfers and they get mad at me. But
Yes.
I'm not a big golfer, but that sounds really fun.
Yeah, I will say adding, the putting greens, we've added putting greens in almost every beach house because you can get a 5 foot by 10 foot putting green to put by the pool for about $150 on Amazon, get some putters, and get a few golf balls. Is it increasing our ADR? No, like you said, but it gives the kids and the families one more thing to do. And when they're looking at those pictures of your listing, that's just one more added amenity. I will say there are some people that I have talked to about the virtual driving ranges and having the virtual golf that are absolutely crushing it. It is expensive though. Out of all of these amenities that we have on this page, adding a virtual driving range is about $10,000. So, do you think someone can increase their ROI enough to cover that $10,000 cost? No, Kenny's got the daughter, so I'm gonna.
Yeah. Yeah. So the virtual driving range, we actually have I have one in the basement. One second. Sorry. Jojo, I'm doing a call right now. Okay. I'll put that on in a second, okay? So the virtual driving range, we just put one in our basement downstairs, or not downstairs, it's in the garage. It's really cool. It's better for bigger homes. So remember, the bigger the property, the more bedroom counts, the higher the ADR, and the type of guest changes. And so we're talking about big groups that are going to get together and everything. When you think about Topgolf, for those of you who don't know Topgolf, it's one of those big golfing centers. I mentioned earlier where it's kind of like a driving range, but there's games and food and fun and all that. You don't go to Top. I mean, okay, some people will, maybe you do, but you don't go to Topgolf by yourself. You go to Topgolf usually with a group of people, right? And
Yeah.
so it's the same thing with these like virtual driving ranges. If I had a 1, 2, even 3 or 4 bedroom, I'm adding a virtual driving range that doesn't match my guest avatar. We're talking a small family or maybe 2 families, but that's really not going to be the avatar that's going to be right for a virtual golf range. Maybe the putt will be, but not the virtual. But these larger groups, yes, it will be because they're going to all hang around, sit around, make fun of their buddy as he's drinking, hitting into the projector and it's way off. All that good stuff that people do at Topgolf. This is like in home, so it depends is the answer, and I believe it works for larger properties.
For the record, it depends is Kenny's favorite term on every conversation.
Yep, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, they're gonna make me the sponsor, the diaper brand Depends, or like Kenny's face on it.
So, I
Anyway.
want to talk a little bit about wellness, and we already talked about hot tubs, so we don't need to, jump into the hot tub thing. Obviously, saunas, barrel saunas, cold plunges, these are all things that have been gaining in popularity, and more people, even though they're on vacation, they're thinking about their health, they're thinking about their wellness, and there's certain markets that these can really make an impact on. We're actually going to test a sauna at a beach market, at a beach house that we're setting up right now, just to see what kind of reviews, because the owner is excited to add it to see what kind of amenities. Have you seen saunas in a beach market? Obviously, the cold plunges, but do you think there will be an impact there? It obviously makes a huge impact, in the mountain market.
Yeah, so there's 2 types of saunas first off that are really important. There's barrel saunas and there's indoor saunas. I'll say that. I'll keep it
Yep.
simple with that. Okay. There's a big difference between the two. Barrel saunas are a lot more marketable and because they're outside and they look cool and like you can say like, oh, like look out the view, and see the the property or see the views or the beach or the water or whatever. Whereas like indoor saunas, they're just an indoor sauna. In beach markets, it's so hot. Even in the wintertime, like, I'm not saying it's hot in the wintertime, but even in the wintertime, like it's just not really a highly sought after amenity. Even though it's a seasonal amenity similar to hot tubs, but in almost every other market, besides maybe urban markets, it has a very strong impact on revenue. And so if I'm in a mountain market, a lake market, river, even like out in the countryside somewhere, barrel saunas, in my opinion, are go-to. Indoor saunas are good in those markets, but they just don't have the same impact that the barrel saunas do.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I mean, at the end of the day, all of these amenities are only as good as your pictures. And if you can have that picture, especially a lifestyle photo with people enjoying these amenities, But, whether it be the sunset or like you said, the mountain view outside looking out. I know Tyler and Hershad have a property that they have a barrel sauna that they're installing in a new property that you just look out and you're looking over the mountains and it's breathtaking. I mean, who doesn't
Yep.
want to sit in that sauna when you have that view? So I
Right.
do think, location of where you're placing it and the photos that you can do are just as important as the amenity itself, because that's what you're selling.
Bing.
You're selling the experience.
Exactly. That cannot be understated. Just because you add the amenity isn't a guarantee that you're going to make more money from it. You have to market that amenity. So you need two things in place. Obviously, like when you're thinking about adding amenity, you need two things. So number one, the plan to actually put in the amenity or add the amenity, how that's going to work, whether you're using contractors or it's just simply buy it, order it, set it up. And then the second thing is, okay, cool. Now that you got it set up, how are you going to market it? Are you going to get new shots of it? Are you going to shoot it? Like you're going to have a photographer come out? I mean, you have to market that amenity. And without that, it's just you just set up something cool that guests will show up and be like, oh, cool, I didn't know that was here, but it's not going to make you any more money now. So always have a plan of how to market that. Remember, we're in the marketing or hospitality business, right? Not just the real estate business. And so we got to be thinking about the marketing side as well as the physical, tangible things as well. So,
Yep. So on these wellness ones, the infrared sauna and the hot tub are very, very marketable. The cold plunges and sensory pods are going to be more of just an added amenity for the experience for the guest. I don't think you're going to see a big return adding those amenities, in my opinion.
yep. Yep. I agree.
So, yep, I forgot that we had this slide. So a little more about saunas. You can see the barrel style saunas are starting around $4,100. The Costco person, simple sauna at $1,800. As Kenny discussed, you don't want a little tiny sauna on a big house, right? Bill says that he's got a property that sleeps 20 plus and they have two hot tubs, because if you have 20 or 30 guests, how are they going to fit in one hot tub? So you have to understand how big of a sauna or a hot tub you need based on how many people you're sleeping. If it's a small 2-bedroom house, a smaller one is probably going to be just fine. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about tech because, obviously there's a lot of stuff about electric vehicles in the media today, but let's talk about electric vehicles in the vacation rental markets. Are we seeing any type of returns on having EV? We only have one out of our 11 properties that have electric vehicle charger, and I so far can't say that it's been a huge impact, but I do think depending on where it is, what are your thoughts?
So what I think it goes back to the guest avatar. You got to ask yourself again, who is coming to your property and staying at your property? Are they driving electric vehicles? It's so market dependent, and it's really hard for me to say, oh, just destination types, mountain markets, beaches, all this, you need to have electric chargers. It just depends. I would say if you have a more luxury style house, I would get an electric EV charger because you're going to attract people who can afford electric vehicles and drive there. It's okay. Like one of the hardest things for us as hosts to like recognize is like all of our properties are not luxury. Like that has to be said. Like my properties right now, I have one and a half. Like the other one, like we're about to launch it, it will be luxury. But like I have a couple properties, so only one out of my portfolio of 6 is quote unquote luxury. The rest they're nice, they're good, they work for the market, but they're not luxury high end. And that's okay. And I'm not trying to make them luxury. And most of your properties are going to be really, really nice, but they're also probably not luxury. They're more like durable, family friendly, like these types of things. And those families, are they driving, EV charged vans? Maybe the hybrids, but not the EV charged ones. They're not going to book because of that, right? So there's kind of two sides of the coin. If you had the money and you do have people who do drive EV chargers to your property, go do it. It's like $1,500 to get an EV charger set up. It's really not that expensive. Is it going to impact? Remember, going back to the 3 categories, is it going to impact your ADR? No. Is it going to impact your occupancy rate? No. It's just guest experience. check the reviews and make sure people are talking about EV chargers in your market to know for sure if it's something you want to add to your property.
And I also think you also have to know, are you in a drivable market? If you're in Miami
Yep.
where, the majority of your people are flying in, it's not going to move the needle for you. But if you're in a regional drivable destination, you're getting 60, 70% of your guests are driving in. That's going to
Yep.
be much bigger impact on the EV charger. The next thing I want to talk about is probably in my opinion, one of the most underrated things that you can do to a house is the lighting. And there are so many different ways that you can add lighting, whether it be under cabinet lighting or string lights outside, whatever it may be. Again, it goes back to selling the experience. And if you have really awesome photos with really awesome lighting, it is going to make people stop and look at your listing. And, it's not, it's not going to enhance their experience. It's not going to, increase your ADR, but it's going to make people stop and look at your listing before they click to the next one. What are your thoughts on adding the different lighting?
100%. In my opinion, lighting is your highest ADR. It actually impacts ADR, not just against experience, because of how it's marketed through the photos. So lighting has the highest ROI out of any type of amenity you can add to your property. Always, always, always get good lighting, string lights, indoor fixtures, outdoor fixtures, everything that you plan to market. That's really important because it's not just go change every bulb or every fixture in your entire house. Don't do that. You'll spend a lot of money and waste a lot of money, but be tactful. Which photos do you think really would be enhanced if it had the appropriate lighting in? Remember, guests, everybody write this down or burn this in your memory. The average guest decides to book after 13 photos. That's the average. Okay, not 60 or 70 or how many you guys put in your listing, 13. Okay, so you don't need 70 amazing staged, beautiful photos. You need a solid 20 to 30 that are like this is the best place to stay at, and I've won over the guest. People have short attention spans. They're not looking through 60 or 70 photos. 13 is the magic number. So when you're thinking about how much lighting, where, all this stuff, remember the marketing plan. Remember attacking the attention span and keeping the attention span of the guests engaged as they're looking through your photo account.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And the last thing on here we're talking about is elevator. If you have an elevator, to make sure that you market it, not just market it to show the elevator, but make sure you're clicking the boxes on accessibility and, for disabilities, because there are people that are specifically searching for properties that have that, accessibility. And it's important that you have more than just a photo in there.
Yep.
So this is the $1 million question, Kenny. How do you calculate a return on your amenities?
Yeah, that is $1 million question. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to take a stab at it?
No, we can talk through it, right? I mean, it's really hard to calculate the return completely, but what I look at is I'm looking at my competition. I'm looking at, the top 5, top 10 competitors that have these, amenities already in there, and comparing that to the properties that don't, right? So, if I'm, and just a quick, tidbit, in a beach market, the 4-4 with a pool that does $90,000 a year compared to the 4-4 with a pool that does 135, right? That's a no-brainer. You're getting a 30 to 40% ROI adding a pool in a beach market. But on some of these extra amenities, it's a little bit harder because not everybody has them, and some may have some and some may not have others. Is there any type of formula to, besides really looking at your comps?
Oh, I mean, so there's a couple ways to do it. So looking at your comps is the, number one way. What do people already have? And what are they doing better than everyone else? And can I attribute that the next part of it is, can I attribute them doing better than everybody else to that particular amenity? Because we know that there's so many different variables that can impact revenue of a property, right? And so a lot of times we stack amenities on top of each other to kind of boost revenue, and that stack allows us to do better. But here's what I recommend. So the comp thing is really good, but also if you're in a market where there aren't a lot of properties, or maybe the amenity you want to add, no one else has added yet, which is very common. I mean, Joe, you mentioned pickleball courts. Okay. There's a lot of markets out there, beach markets, very, very similar to Panama City Beach in different capacities, that nobody has a pickleball court yet. And there's other beach markets that have more than 9 pickleball courts. And so what you need to do is find similar markets. If there aren't a lot of properties that have in your current market that have that particular amenity, find similar markets like yours and see if those properties have that particular amenity and if they're making more money than everybody else. 9 times out of 10, if that's the case, then it will work in your market too.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
So like if I'm in Gulf Shores or let me pick maybe St. Augustine. And guys, I need to do a little more research here before I'm shooting out some maybe like tertiary markets to some of the more popular ones. I don't know how many pickleball courts are in Gulf Shores and St. Augustine, but I don't think there's that many. Not as many as going to be in like some of these other areas. Okay, if I see the success in the numbers of what pickleball courts could be in Panama City Beach, I can presume that they're going to have a similar impact, okay, percentage wise in Gulf Shores or St. Augustine. All right, but you got to do the research there. I'm not telling you that's the case. I don't know the numbers there. Please do the research on that one. But it's the same thing. Like if I'm in a lake market or a mountain market, especially like the Smokies, and I know, for example, like indoor swimming pools do really, really well in the Smokies. Okay, so if I had an indoor swimming pool in Asheville, North Carolina, which on the other side of the Smokies, there's not many of those. It's also going to do equally like as well. And so approaching it that way, the saunas, the hot tubs, the outdoor mini putt-putts, pickleballs, all those things. But remember the guest avatar, and then also do your research in similar markets, and that will help you decide if the ROI makes sense in particular markets where you don't have a lot of data. So.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm going to touch again on marketing your amenities and making sure that you have really great photos marketing those amenities. As Kenny said, you have 13 pictures to capture your audience for them to decide if they're going to book your place. And if you have 13 great photos that are showing the amenities in use and showing, how they're going to make their stay great, you're going to have a much better chance of them booking your place. I've seen so many times, it's just a picture of a plain pool, no sunset, no nothing. It's just, just a pool or just a plain picture, and it's not really capturing, What are your thoughts on lifestyle photos? I know this is getting off of amenities. I'd like to talk about the stuff that's going to help you, show those amenities. But what are your thoughts on lifestyle photos on these amenities? Having people actually playing pickleball or in the hot tub?
Well, let's take a look at the data. 75% of properties that have lifestyle photos are in the top 90th percentile in revenue performance or higher in their markets. 75%. So what does that tell me? I probably need to have lifestyle photos, right? Yeah. And it's so true when you compare a property that has some life, and guys, I don't say every photo needs to be something with models in it or your family in or whatever, sprinkled in, but showing the experience of the property. Remember, we are selling an experience. We're not selling real estate. Okay. One of the biggest misconceptions with photographers who don't specialize in short-term rentals today is they go take pictures of your property. That's not what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to take pictures of the experience. There's no better way to sell an experience than to show the experience of someone doing something there. A really good example of this, someone took some lifestyle photos, and they had this chair, like this little hammock, and it was cool. It looked really cool, empty, but it was like, okay, cool. There's like a cool chair there. I'm like, whatever. But then the next photo was of a woman cuddled up, like reading a book. And I immediately thought to myself, I was like, man, like I could see myself reading this book I've got right now in my hand, like that I'm reading right now. Like I totally want to be that person. And I could see myself sitting in that chair. And all of a sudden I now have an emotional tie to that chair and that property. And that sets me apart than all the other properties, if I'm the person, if I'm the host trying to market that property. And so what's going to set you aside? Your title? People aren't reading your title and going, oh, I'm comparing the title of, the 6-bedroom luxury beach house versus the, 6-bedroom luxury beach cottage. Like, no one's thinking like that. They're thinking of individual photos that's something unique about them. Like, oh, wow, I love the view. This is the property with the view. This is the property with the game room. That's how they're comparing. And there's a lot of options for guests to compare. So when you're thinking about lifestyle, is one of the best ways to help separate you from the pack to sell the experience so that people can have that emotional tie to you to better remember your property when they're trying to book. And that shows in the data as well.
I mean, that's a huge number. 75% are in the top 90. I mean, that's a huge number. That's not just, nickels and dimes there. That's huge. So I agree with that. So when you talk about getting photos, it's been in the past, you'd be like, oh, I can get, real estate photos for $250, $300. We just spent $2,000 on a photo shoot for a new property. I know on your podcast, you were just talking about your photo shoot when you were talking about it this past week on how much money you're spending on a photo shoot. And it may seem like a lot of money, but that return, in my opinion, you're going to get it back, and the data's showing it.
Yep, I agree. So, cool.
So what other insight do you have on amenities that we haven't discussed yet?
Oh man.
I think we lost Kenny. He got frozen on me. Wi-Fi is a little bit spotty in Kentucky, so out there on the Bourbon Trail. There you go. You're back.
Okay, yeah. All right. I don't know where I cut off, but I'll just say, okay, if I cut out again, just let me know. Market your amenities. Stage your amenities when you get your photos. Use models. Use lighting. Take advantage of all these little things I'm telling you about. These little things are how you make more money. This is the little things that separate you from, I made $50,000 a year to I made $75,000. I made $100,000 a year, on this one property, because that's what's going to separate you from the competition, because they're not doing that. They're not thinking like this. So when you're approaching amenities, I don't care what you add to your property, market your amenities, have a plan.
Yep. No, I can't agree more. I mean, it's such a big part of doing it. And, like I said before, you can't just add one arcade game and call it a game room. You can't just add one amenity to your property and think you're going to move the needle. It needs to be an experience, like Kenny's talked about. You can't just say, okay, this one thing is going to take me to the next level. It's a multitude of things. So when you're talking about your return, it's definitely not going to be just that one thing. I mean, there are going to be some things that are just the one. The indoor pool in that mountain market is going to move the needle. The pool in the beach market is going to move the needle. But if you have all that and you're looking to add sauna, arcade, golf, whatever it may be, don't just choose one. If you have the room, choose multiple and make it a full experience, because that's what's going to keep people coming back year after year.
Yep, I agree.
Well, awesome.
Cool.
I, really appreciate you joining me today on this call. Had quite a few investors on there. So if you have anyone on the call still, there's about 40 of you. If you have any questions, type them in the chat. We at the Savvy team, we are growing. We are in like 20 something markets right now. But the most important thing is we're working with Kenny and his team. And no matter what market that you're interested in investing with, between Kenny and us, we can help you find the right person to help you, get that property. They have a great service, just like, and they partner with us. So really, would love to help you guys out finding your next property. You can schedule a call with me. Kenny, how can they get in touch with you if they wanted to talk to you about, you helping them find a property?
Yeah, I'll put my email in the chat. Guys, just email me or go to strinsights.com and you can speak to someone on my team as well. Yeah, just reach out, or you could follow me on Instagram at Kenny Bedwell. If you want some entertainment, you could message me there too. So, Joe, we have a few questions. We want to hit those up.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so I just want to, there's a couple, and I figured this is pretty common. So somebody asked about, hey, should I do a normal play set or a custom ship play set? Okay, how is that going to improve ADR? It's not going to improve your ADR. It's not an amenity that will improve your ADR. It's an amenity that will improve your guest experience. Okay, so that we really have to break out these three categories and understand that if you're looking for amenities that improve ADR, a play set is not going to do that. But needless to say, is a ship playset cooler than a regular kid's playset? Absolutely. At that. You can't
Yeah, I
have it
agree.
and then expect it. How are you going to market it? So to answer your question, if I had the funds and the budget and it made sense, yeah, I would do the ship one, right? But then I would also market it as well, have kids playing on it, or like take really cool shots of it. But at least market it, okay? But it's not going to improve your ADR. It's going to improve your guest experience.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
what
agree.
else?
And if you can theme it towards, what's in your market. So for instance, you talked about a ship play set. I have a investor that's buying a property. We have the new Dolly Parton Pirate Dinner Theater. They are going to do the pirate ship play set because they're trying to play off of that experience that's coming to Panama City Beach.
Right, right. Um, yep. Okay, I think that was the only other question. Somebody asked about, is this recorded? I assume it will be, or it is
Yes.
recorded.
Yep, it'll be
So,
sent out after the webinar. We'll get it posted. All of that will be available, so you can go back and review and
yeah.
watch it. I believe it'll be on our page as well as our YouTube, and that's usually where we get the most of the views is on the YouTube.
So, last question on here. I do want to talk about this. So, someone asked you, have you ever decided to add a particular amenity without proof of concept to see if you can lead the market? No. Short answer, no. But I will add things to an already existing amenity that might enhance it to make it look cooler. So, for example, um, so at this Kentucky, I wish I could show you guys. It's really sick. Follow me on Instagram. I'm gonna be posting some videos on this really soon because it's really cool. So we did a little mini putt putt course. I think it's like 9 holes or something like that. But instead of it just being like the normal putt putt course, we did bourbon themed putt putt. There's barrels, there's horses, little obstacles, hills, things like that. Looks like Kentucky, like very bourbon themed. So being risky for me was taking an amenity I already know that works and enhancing it to stand apart from everybody else. Okay. But I'm not going to go and, add in a pickleball court here because there aren't any pickleball courts yet. All right. And maybe I could do the research and see if there's similar markets, but I don't know. We'll see. There's a couple other people. I'll wait and see if it works for them. And if it does, great, I can add it. But I'm enhancing the current amenities that I know that work in the market. And I'll do research and add a few, like the barrel sauna. We've got the barrel sauna and stuff hooked up. And that's in other markets. Thank you, Joe. I'm getting my makeup done while I'm talking here. And so anyway, so think about ways you can.
Yep, we lost him again. So I think, as he's talking about, think about ways you can market it and make it stand out on those amenities. I think that's really, really important to be able to do that. I think he's still frozen there. And one thing that last thing that I was gonna discuss when it comes to amenities and understanding your market is, I already talked about do an abundance. Don't just do one, do more than one, which I think is really, really important to really, make your amenities stand out. But back to one more touch again, it's just getting those photos and make sure that you really market it. So hopefully Kenny will come back. Nope, looks like we lost Kenny. So make sure you follow him. He actually has a really awesome Instagram. It will make you laugh if you do not currently follow him. I'm going to check to see if there's any more questions. Nope, I think we're good. So this is how you can get a hold of me if you want to hop on a call and discuss the Emerald Coast, anywhere from Destin through Panama City Beach and the Forgotten Coast. So be happy to help you answer any questions in that market. We've been able to find some really great properties for investors recently. I think 11 total, but since January 1st, that all have 15% plus ROIs that have either been closed or will be closing in the next 2 weeks. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. I really, really appreciate you coming on. And until next time, we'll see you next week on next week's Savvy Session. Thanks so much.